Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on the newest version of College Football Revamped. We begin yet another exciting week of NCSL football as the college football season, well, it continues to rage on, and we have a lot of good matchups this week, multiple top 25 matchups coming up your way over the course of this episode, and I am certainly excited to get things kicked off. It should be an extremely fun one as we have 16 nationally televised matchups throughout the country, plus studio updates, plus some other box scores that may or may not surprise you, depending on how you feel about certain teams, not only in real life, but in this NCSL Dynasty universe. So, should be a really fun set of games planned for us here today. I hope you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into the action. So the first game of the day that we have in this episode is actually a noon kickoff. We have number 25 Auburn going on the road against Mississippi State. This was an early season game that we had back in year number 2, and it ended up being a complete shootout. We'll see if it ends up being in a similar way, except Auburn coming out on top this time around, as halfway through that first quarter, Derek Alexander and company looking to try and punch it into the end zone, and they will. Auburn will draw the first blood in this early season action, and we got ourselves a good game on our hands. Looks like this could end up being another shootout already. We already got 21 points on the board. This is a great game to pick the over on, as Mississippi State is hanging around, using that home field advantage. They're going to get this field goal up on the scoreboard, and that's only one quarter of action. We already got a 14-10 game. Meanwhile, in that second quarter of action, Mississippi State looking for their first lead of the game. Going to throw over the middle. It's got a receiver. Steven Berg is going to be able to make the catch, and he will pick up the first down for the Bulldogs. And that will bring up a goal line situation. Looking to our first lead of the game. Dropping back, facing some pressure though. Rolls to his right and finds Isaac Rogers in the end zone. Touchdown, Bulldogs. And Jeremy Baldwin having himself an excellent first half. He has 2 passing touchdowns already, and he's looking to lead a third touchdown drive here in this first half of action. Baldwin in the shotgun. He's not going to hand it off. He's going to keep it, and Jeremy Baldwin is going to score. So Mississippi State takes the lead against Auburn, and the Tigers, ranked number 25 in the nation, they're on a little bit of an upset watch, especially after Derek Alexander throws that highly questionable interception. Not sure what he was looking at there, but Mississippi State now has a chance to extend the lead before we go into the halftime locker room. That's a great throw there to William Lawson, and Lawson able to get out of bounds as well. Keeps the Bulldogs with 1 timeout remaining in the first half, but it looks like they won't be needing it after all, as Stephen Thompson is going to score. However, Auburn is looking to answer back real quick, looking for at least a field goal themselves. We could have an interesting one on our hands. 2nd and inches, but the clock is still running. When will they use that final timeout in the first half? Will this be a shot in the end zone? Alexander drops back, fires, and it's caught! Ty Jacobs in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Auburn! And the Tigers are right back in the game, only down by a field goal. And needless to say, Auburn will retake the lead sometime in the second half, putting Mississippi State on the back heels. They are struggling to stay in this game. 7 minutes left to play. They have to find a way to come away with points on this drive. If not, this game could certainly be over. Maybe not over, but certainly not looking good for Jeremy Baldwin and company. That's a nice little halfback screen to the outside, and it's going to be a scamper into the end zone. They're actually going to go for the 2-point conversion. Baldwin dropping back. He's got some time, throws to the left-hand side, but it's dropped. And that's as close as the Bulldogs are going to get, as Auburn is going to survive, remaining undefeated on the season. So we have a couple of more games happening that do also feature top 25 matchups. We will start things out with Michigan State. They go on the road, playing in Onsad Stadium, taking on the Oregon Ducks, ranked number 19 in the entire country. Oregon coming off of a pretty tough loss to Ohio State back in week number 1, and struggled against Akron in week number 2. That was something that we did witness right before our eyes in the studio updates. So Oregon looking to come out, and they are really trying their best to send the message right now. They actually carry a dominant lead into the end of the first half, where we're going to see this Oregon team put up 30 plus points in a half of football. That was the best half of football that Oregon has played this entire season. But can they finish the job, or will Michigan State be able to run themselves back into the game? It looks like Oregon is going to run with it. Quack, quack, motherfucker, as Oregon will have an 18-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Kick is up, and that's going to be another field goal attempt. Good. So Oregon wins convincingly against Michigan State, 41-20. Meanwhile, we have another top 25 team playing at the exact same time. Southern Miss comes in ranked number 20 in the nation. They're taking on an unranked Oklahoma team that really disappointed in year number 2. That's why they started the season off unranked at all going into year number 3. But looking to change that attitude as we go into deeper into this week number 3, as Oklahoma will have an early lead against the number 20 team in the nation. But Southern Miss will climb themselves back into the game. They'll get a field goal up on the board, making it a 4-point difference. But Oklahoma's putting together another nice drive. Looking to finish that drive as Dante Stebbins is able to win off of the slant pattern. That's a touchdown for Oklahoma, and the Boomer Sooners, it is alive and well, as Southern Miss struggling to keep up with the ferocity of the Oklahoma offense. But Javon Riley, though, is going to get him into a goal line situation. So Golden Eagles have a chance to cut it back to just a few points. We got a running back all by himself, Isaiah Justice. He will be forced out at the 1-yard line, but it'll be interesting to see what Southern Miss does. We'll see if they decide to run the ball. They will, with the quarterback Dante Robinson, and the Eagles are back in the game. 21-17 being your score, and they have a chance to take the lead going into the second half, as that is a dot to Marvin Armstrong. How about that for a dime? We certainly saw one there. So now Southern Miss looking to continue to drive. Another big throw over the middle. Javon Riley showing up and making big plays here in this towards the back end of this first half. Even though its stats don't pop out that much, he only has 35 yards off of a few catches. And this quarterback just has plenty of time to play with the football. Greg Whaley's going to get a 19-yard reception as well. So now Southern Miss has a chance to punch to the end zone. Before we get into the half, they're going to try to run for it, but it's fumbled. Oh, they had a chance to secure the bag, and the bag was completely fumbled. Oklahoma will hold the lead into the second half, and after that fumble recovery by the Oklahoma defense during that 2-minute drill, it seems like the Sooners are trying to never look back ever again in this game. This would give Oklahoma one of their biggest leads that they've had today, and that's a great run up the middle by Jerome Butler. That was a big-time run, pinballing off of defenders. And Oklahoma with their biggest lead going into the final quarter, as that kick is super ugly. He looks like that one kicker off of College Game Day that happened in Durham, but got it through. Got it through, though. Kick is good. That gives Oklahoma a 14-point lead, and that's still growing. The lead is actually still growing against Southern Miss. The Eagles being completely shell-shocked right now. They have absolutely no idea what to do with the moment. Marvin Armstrong is going to help make this a little bit closer of a football game, but Oklahoma is going to stun the number 20 team in the nation, 45-24. Should be adjustment in the rankings. As we have a time now to get a studio update in for this episode. BYU taking on Georgia Southern as the Eagles, a former FCS squad, win their first game of the year. Meanwhile, we have a few other teams that are getting ready to kick things off. This is for the 1 o'clock slate. Most notably, number 11 Minnesota getting ready to go at it. And look at that. We have number 11 Minnesota showing up on the screen to begin that 1 o'clock slate, these 1 o'clock highlights. Can Minnesota remain undefeated, or will Cal shock the world? We already seen one top 25 upset today. Will it be double trouble? Could it be back-to-back like a Drake song? As we're getting into the closing moments of this first half, and Cal is not going anywhere. They are coming all the way across the country here in the Twin Peaks of Minnesota, and they're coming to play ball. We got a 4-point game with less than 3 minutes left in the first half as Lil Harrison throws it on the money to Brandon Brown. That's a great 20-yard catch there. As we're now looking at a 3rd and short. Harrison got some time to drop back. He gets away from one defender. Steams rolls over a second. He's still on his feet. Lil Harrison is eventually going to be brought down, but it's for a gain of 10. So Minnesota playing at a high level on this final drive of the first half, potentially, as Harrison again throws it on the money. Mike McLaurin with a 13-yard reception. As now 2nd and 8 coming up. Harrison dropping back, looks over to the right-hand side. He's got his running back out of the backfield, Charles Riley. The Cal defense not accounting for him. And we now have a 1st and goal situation. Harrison looks to the left-hand side and finds a wide open, butt naked Brandon Brown. As Minnesota has the lead and momentum going into the second half of action. Harrison looking to add on to that. He's actually going to fight for the last few yards, but the last second, the ball is fumbled and in the back of the end zone, so that's counted as a touchback. So if Harrison just would have went down, they probably would have been able to punch it in a few plays later. Hopefully it doesn't hurt them too much at the end of the game. Could be foreshadowing, could not be foreshadowing. You have to watch the rest of this little highlight video to find out, as that is a big time play by Sean Shaw there, the true freshman out of Gonzales, Louisiana, coming from the Bayou State to play college football here in the northern part of the country. So Cal going into the final quarter down by 11 still, but a couple of touchdown drives. All it takes is a couple of plays, and it could change the entire complexity of this game. As we're now looking at a 2nd and goal coming up. Cal, we're going to go into their power run formation, and sure enough, Todd Thompson scores, and they'll even go for the 2-point conversion as well. This is to make it just a clean field goal game, and they got it. They actually get the field goal, or the 2-point conversion, and then we also get a studio update. Miami of Ohio is able to win big against New Mexico. Needed overtime to do it, but Miami does win their first game of the season. And speaking of close games, 2 minutes left here in this one, and Cal has a chance to drive down the length of the field and pull off a stunner. They only have one timeout, though, and they need this 3rd down. Big 3rd down that needs to be converted in an open Kobe Jones right down the center of the field. And it's a goal line situation. Cal could tie, or they're going to go for the jugular. Kobe Jones in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, California. And the Sunshine Kids are going to stun the number 11 team in the nation, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, late in this one. Meanwhile, Notre Dame trying to fight their way into the top 25. They were a top 25 team back in year number 1, but they have been disappointing ever since. Stop if you heard that before, Notre Dame being disappointing. But Notre Dame, early in this one, conference action against the Mid-Tennessee State Blue Raiders. Notre Dame coming out firing pretty well. Well, it wasn't the most dominant first half from their offense. Mid-Tennessee State never at any point got into the red zone. No red zone trips for the Blue Raiders in the first half. And then in the second half, we start to see that offense heat up just a little bit, as I thought Greg Hunt was going to scamper his way into the end zone, but we don't quite get that. It's going to be a 2nd and goal inside the 1 yard line instead, which they actually passed for, and the pass works because Mid-Tennessee State did end up deciding, hey, we should try to bring the blitz. That clearly did not work at all. And now Notre Dame is up 20-0. Looking to grow this lead even bigger as Andrew Jackson had to make a contested catch there. That could have been picked off if not careful enough. So here we are, last play in the 3rd quarter. Notre Dame tacking on 1 more touchdown for good measure as the Fighting Irish are going to be able to put up more than 200 yards of rushing in this particular game as they win big in MAC action, 41-14. Speaking of that conference, we now go to Tennessee and Northwestern. They are in the same conference as that Notre Dame and Mid-Tennessee State game that we saw there previously. So this is also in the MAC as Tennessee does have a chance to get to 3-0. They have not experienced a bye week yet over the course of this season. And Tennessee is getting everything that they can handle right now from this Northwestern squad. And the 1st quarter coming up, and we still have a tight game on our hands. And that is even with Tennessee, at least on paper, being the far superior team from a pure talent perspective. But these Northwestern kids are certainly playing hard, but they're going to need to play hard if they want to stop them at the goal line. But Tim Wilson, well, he wanted it just a little bit more. That's a touchdown for the Volunteers. Tennessee actually has the first lead of the day, and that lead could grow bigger as he is going to be running it all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Volunteers, as that is Titus Dunbar that got picked off there in that critical moment. So it could have been looking at a 14-13 game if things went right for Northwestern on that final drive, but it went completely and terribly wrong. So now Tennessee, we're going to open up that can of whoop ass as we get into the 2nd half, and it looks like it's being opened right in front of our eyes. Sam Graves this time being responsible for that particular touchdown, as now 14-34 being your score, and Northwestern needing nothing short of a miracle if they want to come back and win this game, get the 2-1, as well as get a critical win in the MAC conference, as that is the exact opposite of what they happened, and that's been the biggest difference. Northwestern has turned the ball over 4 times in this game, while Tennessee has still been perfect, and they're looking to still remain perfect when it comes to taking care of the ball. Touchdown, Tim Wilson, and Tennessee runs away with it in that 2nd half, winning 41-28 to get the 3-0. But we do have some studio updates to bring to your attention. We got Georgia Southern, of course. They are able to go ahead and win their very first game of the season. They win 38-28 against BYU. And then in other news, we got the Utes of Utah. They will remain undefeated as they took on Eastern Michigan on the road. The Eagles actually do end up suffering their very first loss of the college football season so far. But we have a bunch of more games coming up. But before we dive into it further, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button. It only takes a few seconds to do. I would truly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart if you actually went about and doing that. But we now jump into the 3:30 slate of games. Lots of nationally televised games happening at the exact same time. But we will start out with Louisville taking on Kentucky. This is a critical battle in the Bluegrass State. Also a MAC game. These two teams also belong in the same conference as the two teams from the 2 previous games that we saw. A lot of love for the MAC in this episode for sure. MACtion is alive and well, except these games are not on a weeknight at like 7 or 8 o'clock or something. Like, it's not a random Wednesday game. But Louisville is really sending a message that they are the tougher team in the Bluegrass State this year. Records be damned. They are dominating the Kentucky Wildcats for that battle of the Governor's Cup, as Louisville looks to add on to this lead, and they will. That is a dot thrown in the center of the end zone, and Louisville runs away with it from start to finish. A 36-10 win for that Governor's Cup. Meanwhile, number 7, Washington, well, the expectations are a little bit different. Handle your business against Maryland as you go through non-conference action, because we know what the Pac-12 has been in the first 2 seasons of this series. This is going to be an incredibly tough conference for Washington to navigate, but unfortunately, someone did not understood the assignment, because Washington, well, those boys are being put on upset alert right now. They're down 10 to, they're up, but they're only up by a field goal with the final minutes of the first half. Maryland even with a chance to take the lead here as we get into the final 90 seconds of the first half, as Craig Holman almost picks up the first down, but because they did not pick up that first down, they do have to use a timeout. Still 2 timeouts remaining, so the Terps are looking okay as they're trying to throw deep downfield, but it's going to be picked off. A very unwise decision there by Elliott Williams, who was leading a great drive there towards the end of the first half, but instead it had to end with a Washington turnover. But in spite of that, both teams still with a realistic chance of winning this game. It's going to come down to execution here in the second half to see who's going to come out on top. Andy Curtis is going to take the lead. 17-10 going to be your score. Washington trying to hold Maryland out of the end zone, but some tough running here by Brian Powers is going to create a 3rd and inches situation. That was his first carry of the day. Right, very next play, Maryland trying to punch it in, trying to lean on that offensive line, and Maryland scores. So the Terps are all knotted up against Washington, and 1 quarter to the side. Will the number 7 team survive, or will we witness the 3rd team in the top 25 lose in this episode? Maybe this is a little bit of an upset alert special after all. And after a couple of field goals, Maryland still has a chance to win this thing, but they have to drive the length of the field with less than 2 minutes left. Elliott Williams trying to throw over the middle. He finds his receiver. That's good for a first down. Temporarily stops the clock. Will they go back to Kevin Wilson? He's been balling today with those 100 yards receiving. Williams looks over to right hand side. He's got his man. And look who it is. It's Kevin Wilson. He's continuing to dominate this game. Maybe it's time for him to go ahead and take over. Williams getting his guys to the line. He looks over to the sideline real quick. Here we go. 1st and 10. Williams right hand side, but thrown to double coverage. Maybe going to that Kevin Wilson well. Just a little bit too much. And Maryland also turning the ball over 4 separate times today. And that's the difference, as Washington just barely survives. They're still undefeated, but they're certainly a vulnerable team. Speaking of vulnerable teams, we'll check in on Penn State, who we just saw lose their first game of the season previously against UCF. So that kicked Penn State out of the top 25. Because of that, they'll be taking on Texas Tech on the road too. So we'll see what this Penn State team is made of, as they're certainly going to be in that wounded animal mode here in week number 3. As Penn State's trying to get off to a better start offensively, 7-0. He's going to dump that off to his receiver, Jason Smith. Jason Smith essentially creating a 1st and goal opportunity as his ball is spotted at the 10-yard line. Looking over to run inside, and Danny Davis will finish it off. So Penn State proving that, hey, that team that showed up against UCF last weekend, that is certainly not how we play football here at Penn State. That's not how we were taught things down in the Happy Valley. So we'll see if they can maintain this level of play through the second half, but it looks like Penn State likely to win this convincingly, and sure enough they do. Then the Lions do win 45-20, trying to remove that blemish from that UCF game. Speaking of teams in the top 25 though, we got UCLA, number 5 in the nation. They'll be taking on Southern Florida, and Southern Florida's been a pretty feisty team here in the first couple weeks of the season. I'm very curious to see how USF can match up against this UCLA squad. Has got a 2nd and short now coming up. Going to run the ball up the gut. And William Hall, he's just going to bounce it to the outside. And, well, nobody was home because everybody was expecting him to just run it in, trying the ground and pound it. So UCLA draws the first blood, and the Bruins up 7-0 early, but USF looking to change that as Benjamin Williams, an FCS transfer from Delaware. He's going to get it inside the 5-yard line, and he calls his own number again, but this time the UCLA defense is ready. LaRue Martin going to bring him down the backfield, and the Bruins defense now has some wiggle room. Williams drops back, has got time to throw, looks over the middle and finds Tyrell Browning for the touchdown. And just like that, we got a tied ball game on our hands. USF came to play, but UCLA certainly rising up to the occasion as well. Kobe Green gonna score, and Brian Daniels, oh boy, is that boy off to a fast start. 7 for his first 8 passes completed. And he's been very efficient in the red zone, as we're going to see Daniels continue to make those great decisions in the red zone, as this time nobody was really open. So Ben Williams, he's just going to run it in himself, makes it 21-10. And then a few minutes later, another touchdown for the Brian Daniels. Brian Daniels scoring yet again, 3rd total touchdown in the first half. And second half was all UCLA as well, as they win convincingly 59-24. Last game that we had of the free 30 states is a little bit of a Carolinas battle, and it is a unfortunate struggle between two teams that both have not won a single game. Now, Eastern Carolina, we were not as surprised about them starting 0-2, but South Carolina not only losing, but losing the teams that honestly they should be beating. Virginia is a prime example of that as well. South Carolina played Virginia last week and couldn't get the job done. They had the lead there too and everything. So we'll see if the South Carolina team can keep the focus and keep itself motivated, because they still have a lot of things that they can accomplish this season, even though start of the year has not gone their way at all. But this kick certainly is. That is a deep field goal. That might have been a 55-yarder that he was able to stroke through. Big pause there. And Eastern Carolina, though, they still have the lead, but it's a much tighter game. Therefore, whoever wins the second half is going to win the game. And it looks like Eastern Carolina, well, they want to win their first game in front of these dedicated home fans here in Greenview, North Carolina. Here's another kick up into the stands, and that's good. So ECU with a 31-20 lead here in the fourth quarter of action. But South Carolina looking to manifest a tie, or at least a tie game, maybe force it into overtime. Is this running back's going to take it down the sideline, but gets caught up just inside the 45-yard line. However, a couple of negative plays force a 4th and 18. Gotta throw it deep downfield, and it was open for a moment, but just did not put enough gas to get there. And Eastern Carolina winning their first game in ACC play, as well as in the entire series season period. They win by 8 points there. So we got a few more games left in this particular episode. First, we are going to dump into Western Michigan. They're taking on the number 10 ranked Florida State Seminoles. They were on bye last week, but they were certainly riding high after their week number 1 victory over Georgia, the reigning champions of the SEC. So we'll see if they can keep their focus, as Florida State will have much tougher games than what Western Michigan will likely provide here, as we're not even halfway through this first quarter yet. Florida State has already scored 1 touchdown, and then Jabari Larkin over here, well, he's going to score yet again for the Seminoles, and it looks like it's going to be a dominating day for this Florida State squad as they look to get to their very first college football playoff here in this NCSL series. And we're looking at a goal line situation. first and goal with less than 2 minutes left to play in the first quarter. And we got Aaron Dodd in the end zone for Florida State. So a brilliant performance in the first quarter for the Seminoles. They do take a little bit off of the gas pedal, though. They will not score at least another touchdown until we do get into that second half. We'll see if things change here in that second half for sure. Trying to maintain that focus, per se, as Aaron Dodd does get a decent carry from the right-hand side. That goes for a gain of 6. Aaron Dodd still on the field, by the way, as Dodd is going to run the ball up the gut, and he is going to pick up the first down. A goal line situation coming up for Florida State, as the Seminoles, with 6 minutes left to play, he's going to keep it himself, looking for the touchdown, and Darryl Boniford, he's going to be so close, but it's going to be no cigar. The transfer out of Nicholls State couldn't punch it in right there, at least not on that run, but here he is, very next play, he'll score anyways. And Florida State, like I said, going to win big against the Broncos of Western Michigan, 48-15. But now we do have a couple of top 25 matchups that are going to be coming in your direction, and we'll start with a premium battle in the Sunshine State. We got number 12 Florida making the track to Miami, and they'll be taking on the number 9 ranked Miami Hurricanes, as Miami are year 1 national champ, year 2 playoff participant. This is a team that has performed at a high level, but Marcus Amos didn't quite do that there, right? He's not playing at that aforementioned high level. Just telegraphs where he's going to go with this ball, and it's going to be an easy interception for a defensive lineman of all people, too. That's the crazy part. And Florida will cash it in, as well as Brian Outlaw, fullback, by the way, something that I'm sure Not the Expert is going to be extremely excited about. Florida is going to score here, so Florida will have a 7-0 lead. Meanwhile, the Miami Hurricanes looking to still get on the board here. It's been a while since Miami's been shut out in a quarter, at least to start the game, and it looks like that's not going to be starting back up anytime soon, as Marcus Amos, off of the read option, he is going to score for the Miami Hurricanes, and just like that, this score is all evened up. Now, going into the second quarter, Florida does carry a short lead, but facing some pressure, BJ Peters had to get rid of it in an ill-advised throw that goes right to the linebacker, and Miami gonna cash it in for a pick six. Could change the entire dynamic of the game as Miami starts his track to pull away. Third quarter now, and Miami does extend their lead. 17-10 is as a dime to the true freshman custom recruit Tyrell Smoochie Wallace, who actually does put up a pretty nice performance. I think we saw it in the background there. 5 catches, 83 yards. That catch does set up a Miami field goal. And in the fourth quarter, Miami, we're going to solidify this win. Going to get it out on the halfback screen to David Smith. Another fullback, by the way. Multiple fullback touchdowns in this game, and it's a little bit of the higher scoring variety. Imagine that. Miami is going to win this game convincingly against their top 15 foes in the Florida Gators. But Florida not giving up completely. BJ Peters does get a chance to tack on a little bit of a garbage time touchdown. And this is just so that like the score does end up looking a little bit better. Not sure what the spread was on this game. I gotta get that betting tool going, so maybe we can get that going. Let me know how you guys feel about that in the comment section, if you want to have like maybe like a pick'em kind of thing for the NCSL moving forward. But Miami's gonna win 30-17, as they will be able to control their destiny more so in the SEC. Speaking of Southern football, this is not the SEC conference. This is actually the Sun Belt here. We got Arkansas ranked number 24 in the nation. Well, they will now be taking on the number 22 ranked Memphis Tigers. And this Tigers team coming off of a pretty good win against Alabama. That was a huge shocker in the previous episode. But this Arkansas team, well, they got something to prove too, as they just recently got into the top 25 themselves. And opening drive for Arkansas ends up being pretty successful overall. They'll get a field goal to open up the game. However, Memphis, their next drive is going to end in a touchdown, as Jason Wilson had to run through a defender, but he certainly ran through a wall for Trey Richardson, the quarterback of the Memphis Tigers. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Memphis has a lead against another top 25 opponent. Could Memphis possibly be the Cinderella? Oh, so much time, only so much time to tell. But Memphis is playing some good ball here, and they're going to get another big run down the sideline from Lamar Hopkins. This is just off of a halfback screen, by the way. So Memphis is going to turn this likely into yet another field goal here. Field goal attempt is going to be up, and it's going to be good too. So Memphis now up 10-6 as we get midway into the second quarter. Arkansas looking to continue its prowess on the ground, and looks like they will keep it up with Johnny James, as Johnny James was completely untouched. He runs down that sideline, and that man was gone like a girl in a country song there. Touchdown, Arkansas. And the Razorbacks now have the lead again. Get the ball again with less than a minute left too, so they can add on to this lead. And sure enough, they will. A connection to Dendrick Dunn. Derek Dunn gonna score for an efficient Joey Kirk. Hasn't had a chance to throw the football too terribly much here in this first half, but when given the opportunity, Joey Kirk has converted those opportunities. He's 10 for 10, just like these ladies from Tennessee. 10 out of 10s. But 20-10 still your score as we jump into the second half, and it looks like Arkansas, they're just showing that, hey, maybe this Memphis team, maybe getting a lot of talk after what they did to Alabama last weekend, but Arkansas, at the end of the day, just seems like the more physical team. And that physicality is really starting to show here in the second half of action. As we got 5 minutes left to play in the game, Joey Kirk still being aggressive and still getting big plays down the field and still getting touchdowns on the scoreboard to Sonny Humphrey this time. And he's going to turn that into a 55-yard scamper. And Joey Kirk is going to have his hat trick from the pocket. That is going to be his third passing touchdown of the afternoon. And sure enough, Arkansas will show and maybe expose Memphis to be slightly fraudulent, or Arkansas, maybe they're a legitimate team. Only time will show. Otherwise, Arkansas for right now has an amazing win on their resume. So we do have some more studio updates before we get into the last couple of games of this episode. First, we have Tulane going to be pulling a shocker here against number 14 LSU. The Tigers already lost their second game of the season, while Tulane is going to be advocating to get into the top 25 themselves with a 16-point win against a top 15 team. And then we have another score update out in the Mountain West. Colorado State narrowly beating the Cougars of Washington State in order to get their first win of the year. But now we get into the two primetime games that we have towards the end of the episode, both 8 o'clock games. And first, it's Michigan and Ohio State, but they're not playing each other, at least not right this second. Michigan, the number 6 ranked team in the nation, they'll go on the road. They'll take on Rutgers. We'll see if Rutgers can pull off something amazing under the lights. But Maurice Hall has been the vocal point of this Wolverine offense to start the season. Now looking at a goal line situation. 5 minutes left in the first quarter. Fred Morris IV, a custom quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines, is going to scamper into the end zone. Touchdown, Michigan. And the Wolverines will draw first blood, but it will not take long for Rutgers to respond, as on the ensuing possession, they'll check on a small field goal there. Short field goal, but still counts as 3 points regardless of where you hit that field goal from. Regardless of what the fantasy football gods may say about that, is both teams end up trading field goals for a little bit, and we end up getting to a point where it's just 10-6 going into the final moments of this first half. Curious to see how much trust is put on Fred Morris the fourth as we get into this final quarter, or at least final drive of the first half, as Morris is going to try to send it deep, but it gets intercepted. It does end up getting picked off as Fred Morris the fourth, one of your guys' customs, was trying to be just a little bit too risky there. Was not worth it for the biscuit. And Rutgers is very much still in this ball game. They're only down by 4 singular points. They have a chance to make that up right now. They could try to take the lead, and a jump ball thrown to Mike Reed. Rutgers is going to score. They'll take the lead against the number 6 team in the nation, and the Wolverines are in the ringer right now, facing potential upset. This would have catastrophic implications to that top 25 poll, and as well as that college football playoff race for the last 2 wild card spots. Early season loss is something that Michigan cannot afford, especially to an unranked team, right? And it looks like Rutgers is hanging in, only down by a field goal at this point. But in this second half, late in the third quarter and into the fourth, Fred Morris the fourth really starts to take over. He says, all right, let me go ahead and scoot myself up in the gaming chair real quick, and let's start playing ball, as he finds another receiver in the end zone, John Anderson. So Fred Morris the fourth has another passing touchdown. Will we make it 4 passing TDs? Morris dropping back, looks again over the middle, and that's somehow caught. Matt Branch catches it off of the deflection there. Don't see that as often as we do in the earlier NCAA games, but hey, sometimes it's just better to be lucky than it is to be good. And I'm sure they're going to be good with what happens next. A touchdown to Jason Crushaw, and Fred Morris will indeed end up helping Michigan put this game away. Definitely was a game that was so much more closer than what the scoreboard says, as Michigan with 24 unanswered in that final quarter. Well, they're going to still be undefeated. So we'll see if Ohio State can do the same thing and win their non-conference matchup. Should be a little bit easier for them. Higher ranked team as number 4 in the country, but they're taking on a UCF team that technically does have a top 25 win on their resume, depending on who you talk to in terms of what is counted as a top 25 win nowadays. We cannot get to a consensus as a college football community, and if you made it this far in the video, you should know that, right? So, but UCF, the point is that they have pulled off big upsets before, and they're making it a dirty game. They are making it an uglier game than maybe what Ohio State wants to play. Buckeyes want to do it with a little bit more flash, while UCF wants to get you in the mud. And at least in the first half, they made Ohio State play more of UCF's game versus Ohio State playing Ohio State game offensively. Also, quick note, Brian Britt, he was the starter for Ohio State, but Vincent Gold, who has plenty of starting experience as well, filling in for injured quarterbacks, he leads a touchdown drive, and he won't have too much rest either, as the Ohio State defense is going to come through and get an interception as well. So again, Ohio State in the red zone. We're going to finish off a big first half, at least a first half in which will give them plenty of momentum to work through, as Drew Manning's going to collect the pitch there, and Ohio State up a decent amount at the half. 20-7 is your score, as Vincent Gold again is going to be tossing it into the end zone. Hat trick for Vincent Gold, who's now up 27-7, looking for an even bigger lead, as a few minutes later, Ohio State again in the red zone once more. 3rd and short. Ohio State looks like it could be a triple option. It is for the motion. Gold staying on his feet, and he's going to score. Touchdown, Ohio State, as the Buckeyes win convincingly, winning by 40 plus against the Knights of UCF. So with all the nationalized televised games officially completed, let's take a look around the country real fast in terms of what other notable scores happened throughout the week. it was a rough week overall for your custom coaches, as Isaac Thompson, the offensive coordinator for Virginia, for example, well, he's going to lose his second game here as they lose big to Georgia Tech here, 48-10, as Georgia Tech starts off pretty fast to start year number 3. They're 3-0. As for Air Force, they continue to be grounded as they continue their non-conference action as they take on Oregon State. The Beavers will also get the 2-0 after they steamroll Air Force 45-3. In other news, Nebraska was able to get their first win of the season finally, but it was a surprisingly close game. Nebraska does avoid the FCS upset, but major concerns in Lincoln, Nebraska, as they're only able to beat Missouri State 24-21. As for other blowouts, we got the Temple Owls continuing to go to work as they win against the Rockets of Toledo 56-24. Temple is now 2-0 on the year, while Toledo is going to fall to 1-2 here in the non-conference slate. As for the Clemson Tigers, they'll get to 2-0 as they take on a hapless Indiana team. Clemson wins 42-16 as Indiana is still searching for their very first win of the season. They're going to fall to 0-3 after week number 3. As for the Texas Longhorns, they're going to dispatch their FCS opponent 38-14 as they continue to show why they are indeed the number 1 team in the country, even though this wasn't their best performance today. As for South Alabama, the Jaguars are able to hand San Jose State their first loss of the season. South Alabama continuing to roll as they win 44-28. South Alabama having a fantastic start to season number 3 so far. As for Alabama, the Crimson Tide are able to get their first win of the season, rebounding off of a week number 1 loss to Memphis. Alabama will win 31-10 against their FCS counterparts. Meanwhile, for the Rice Owls, they dominate at home against North Carolina State as the Rice Owls move to a 2-0 start. This is a big-time victory for the Rice Owls as they're able to win 49-19 against a program that went to the ACC Championship last year. Meanwhile, for San Diego State, the Aztecs could crush the Akron Zips in non-conference play. San Diego State wins 44-14 as Akron is going to drop to just 1-2 on the year. They're on a 2-game losing streak. And then a couple of other games of note, we have Vanderbilt able to notch their first win of the season. The Commodores are able to win 41-10 against Old Dominion, which does happen to drop their first game of the season. We also have Coastal Carolina winning their first game of the season as well, winning 48-14. UTEP, which was such a good program last season, well, this is not the same team clearly, as they're 0-3 and just looking hapless in their non-conference schedule. And then the last game of note that I wanted to talk about was Ole Miss, who silently gets to number 3 in the entire country. They take down Louisiana Tech to get to 2-0 in Sun Belt Conference action. The Rebels win 41-14. So we've made it through a few weeks into the season, and this is what the top 25 poll is currently looking like. We have a lot of stability at the top, as the top 10 that you're seeing on your screen right now, that is pretty much the same. No real big changes. Although we start to get to number 11, we do see a little bit of variance. Hawaii does move up to number 11 on the country, even though they were ranked, they were actually on the bye. They'll be taking on Virginia next week. South Alabama, great 3-0 start. They got a nice win against San Jose State. They move up 3 spots to number 12. Alabama moves up 3 spots too, even though they just beat an FCS opponent, not even that convincingly. Iowa, also on bye, they move up 3 spots. Clemson moves up 3 spots to number 15 in the country. They do so by beating Indiana. Florida does move down 4 spots to number 16 in the country. They're going to be looking to rebound when they take on Georgia Tech on the road. Oregon moving up a couple of spots as well after a free touchdown win against Michigan State. Minnesota ended up moving down 7 spots after a shocking loss to Cal. They're going to look to bounce back against Western Michigan, who just got blown out by Florida State, by the way. We also have Rice move up to number 19 in the country. They do so by blowing out North Carolina State. And then rounding out your top 25, you got Arkansas, who had that big win against Memphis, Cal, Tulane, Oklahoma. Those three schools getting big wins against top 25 opponents at the time, so you love to see that. It's LSU hanging in there at number 24. They're 1-2, and then Nebraska is still in here, but fell a couple of spots after barely beating an FCS team. But that will wrap up the NCSL here in week number 3 in this third season of the NCSL Dynasty. I hope you guys did enjoy it. I'm hoping I can be a little bit more consistent moving forward now that we are getting out of that busy season that I did have with my daytime job. So hoping to be a little bit more consistent with the uploads moving forward. But that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the content, and if you did, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.